And we're back with another episode of Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It's Gerald Glassford coming up right at you here with Inside Sports Fantasy Football, along with, of course, my good friend, Mr. Chris Lardieri. We're here coming at you once again, providing you the insight that you need for your fantasy football league or NFL team. Coming right back at you here. Again, this is our NFL predictions for 2025, how we see the season playing out. And after a couple weeks now of fantasy football talk and fantasy football drafts, including the annual Chris Lardieri division, which we went ahead and drafted for last night, we're looking forward to having a great conversation today on the NFL right now. So looking forward to it indeed. But again, my partner in crime is here for Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It is, of course, my good friend, Mr. Chris Lardieri. Chris, great to have you back on talking NFL football once again.
Great to be back, Gerald. How are we here? It's already week 1 of the NFL.
Well, I'd feel better if Yahoo liked me better. But first, I want to say this before we get any further. If you decide to change over the league to ESPN, I would be greatly appreciative of that, because the Yahoo draft interface is absolutely the worst mess I've ever seen. It is absolutely it's just all this stuff. And it's very hard to see what exactly is going on as far as who is being drafted where. It is just like right there. The whole thing is like ads and trying to upgrade a Yahoo Plus. It's right there in front of your face, and it takes up so much space you can't even see who the other teams are drafting. It's right there in the small right-hand corner. It's as if Discord, which I hate immensely, threw up all over my screen. And, you guys can say all you want about ESPN and it has its issues. I understand it, but at least I can see what's going on in the course of my draft. So I'm just ticked off, my friend, at Yahoo. Their interface was always much easier, but this time it was just like all this useless information going across my screen when I just wanted to go ahead and pick, select, and draft, and it just made it a less enjoyable experience by what they showcased. I understand a couple of my good friends that are in our in my chat on the Lakers Fast Break In love Yahoo. I'm sorry, I'm no longer Yahooing for Yahoo.
Yeah, my other league's ESPN. That was the first time Dom and I did a draft there, so I'll have to debrief with him later on after our show. But yeah, I feel like at least at ESPN, the app's a little easier to read for people our age. But yeah, I mean, Yahoo was the gold standard. It's kind of surprising. I mean, it's not surprising that they'll sell ad space anywhere there is space, but yeah, it's disappointing to say the least, but duly noted.
Absolutely. So if you have any questions for us, like Jacob4 has right down below, which we'll address right now, please go ahead and hit us up, isfantasyfootball@yahoo.com or Inside Sports FF on Twitter or Gmail as well. Or you can just leave it in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, Twitch, what have you. But Jacob4 says, yo, rate my draft. Half PPR. That's where we're coming to, is half PPR, guillotine leagues, all these catch things now. It's just great. 12-man, pick 7, snake draft. League is 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, and I appreciate the detail on this, by the way. 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex, and it can be a tight end on the flex. Picks in order: CeeDee Lamb, Chase Brown, Brock Bowers, JSN, Pollard, Caleb Johnson, Golden, Odunze, Krosky Merritt, Josh Downs, J.J. McCarthy, Dylan Sampson, Justin Fields, the Tampa Bay kicker, and the Packers D. Your thoughts? How well do you think he'll do?
I think he did well. He has a nice, well-rounded team. I like Golden. We got him one of the middle rounds in one of my leagues. I like how you went Lamb and then Chase Brown on the backside at number two. JSN, I think, is a good value pick. I think he's due for a big year as the guy in Seattle. My only concern for you is that if Justin Fields goes down, I feel like you might need a better backup quarterback, but it's early. I know you're taking a flyer on McCarthy and hoping he's this year's Sam Darnold in Minnesota. But other than that, I think you've done a nice job and getting Bowers too. I mean, you can't say much more than that. Where we were picking last night in our league, Gerald, there was just no way we were going to get Bowers given what was out there and hoping to wait for him. Someone snagged him way in front of us. So good job there.
Wonder who that was.
Same guy who took two quarterbacks back to back, one of whom we wanted.
Yes. I wonder who that. You know my deal. You know my deal on quarterbacks. I always try to get them third or fourth and fifth round, and I did that this time around in fourth and fifth rounds. And seeing that, Jacob, I say overall you've got really good depth at the skill positions. Getting Bowers to the third round was actually a good thing to do because I've seen him high as I'm not kidding you when I say this, the first round being chosen in other leagues that I've actually been a part of already. So getting him in the third was a good value pick. Overall, I see its quality, but I think you are. I think, like you said, Justin Fields. It's up to McCarthy or Justin Fields. You got to have a lot of faith in McCarthy. Fields again, a lot of pressure is on him to succeed. So we'll see what happens there. But if you don't like what you see for the quarterback position, you do have a lot of good assets that you can package to other teams. So I think, again, overall, what you've got there is really solid depth wise, especially at the skill positions. Getting the Tampa Bay kicker, I think, was a good one because he's got a good leg. Accuracy is pretty good. One thing I pointed out in my drafts, I tried to target kickers that had the highest previous accuracy. Is what I usually go off as far as, where you'll see somebody with 35 attempts last year, maybe 27, 26, 28. If there's any that pop into 30 out of 33 or 30 out of 35, 31 or 35, you just solid numbers. And the Tampa Bay kicker does have that. So pretty solid numbers. And the Packers D, obviously a good pickup by their recent pickup themselves. Although it kind of concerns me, he comes on the team. Micah Parsons signs a big deal, and already he's getting treated. So we'll see what happens. But again, overall, a good roster as far as depth is concerned. I'm just concerned about the quarterbacks. But again, you've got a lot of depth to package them in a deal in case you want to upgrade there, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, depth is key. And honestly, if neither of your quarterbacks don't pan out, just keep an eye on the waiver wire, especially in the first couple weeks of the season. There could be someone out there for you.
Once again, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football along with Chris Lardieri. It's me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this. We truly appreciate you joining us. So, Chris, the season is almost here. As we talk right now, looking at the landscape of the NFL, we often talk about as far as who are the rising stars, who are the guys that are going to get you the points, which games matter as far as fantasy football. And then we'll throw on as far as, of course, woof, 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 when we go to the doghouse and talk about the underdogs that appeal to you most, which I think last week you said you were kind of like, I'm not sure exactly which way I want to go ahead and go with. And I think you'll, if you decide to go down to the doghouse again this week, that's up to you. But let's start off with your picks in the NFL, my friend. At first, let's start with your pick as far as overall. Who are the teams that you think in the NFC are going to make the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles are a no-brainer. I think Washington, while they'll come back to earth, are going to be in the hunt. The NFC North is going to be definitely interesting. I mean, you think the Lions and Packers will definitely be in the running. Now, will the Vikings fall back to reality? I don't think they'll have a year like they did last year. 14 wins and a wild card, but they've always got to be considered in the hunt. And if the new coach in Chicago, Ben Johnson, can get Caleb Williams right, who knows? That team might sneak in as a wild card. The South, I mean, look, I mentioned last week, maybe you take a flyer on Carolina to outperform, but the Bucks still have to be the prohibitive favorites there. I still think they'll make the playoffs, barring any bad injuries. And then we go to the West, where I think, definitely the 49ers and Rams will be in it. Some people think the Seahawks, after a near 500 year last year, are poised to bounce back under second year coach Mike McDonald. And some people think the Cardinals, with their last place schedule, might be a contender. I don't, but I do think they could play the role of spoiler here in a very tough NFC West.
If there's a team that you think may surprise in the NFC, who may that be?
I think it's going to be the San Francisco 49ers. I know a lot of people are jumping on that bandwagon. They had a horrible season last year with a ton of injuries. People think the Rams are the favorite in that division right now, but as long as they can stay healthy, they got a backup now for CMC if he gets hurt. I think they're a team that's poised to make a run for the Super Bowl, quite frankly. In terms of long shots, I'll throw one out there. I think the Panthers, if something goes wrong with the Buccaneers and the Falcons do their usual choke job in December, who knows? Maybe that's a team that could sneak up and win the division or sneak in as a wild card. Just a long shot pick from here.
I say look out for the Falcons. I don't know about their defense just yet, but their offense, I believe, is very high octane. And how far their success goes, Michael Penix Jr. A lot is up to him. But then again, you do have Kirk Cousins, although he didn't really impress in his position when he was given the starting lineup. I saw him here last season against the Raiders, and it didn't work out so well. So even though he has proven himself worthy over the past few years before that, it seems like right now I'm not sure where he stands. But Michael Penix Jr., I think the success of Atlanta rides really squarely on his success, because you have an outstanding receiver in Drake London. You have an outstanding a running back in Bijan Robinson. It all ties in with Penix and how far you think he'll go.
Exactly. And you hit the nail on the head too. The Falcons' issues have not been offense the last few years. It's been their defense. And I know they tried to address it in the draft, but until that team makes a stop, they're not going to be a playoff team. So, I know Raheem Morris comes from the defensive side of the ball. Let's see if he gets that unit turned around this year finally.
Once again, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It's Chris Lardieri along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this. I truly appreciate it. If you have any questions on your fantasy football team, or just before Thursday start, any chance if you're going into the last second draft, any last second advice, please let us know. isfantasyfootballyahoo.com or Inside Sports FF on Twitter or gmail.com, or you can just drop it in the comments below and we'll get to it as fast as we can as well. But Chris, if there's any team, how you see it lay out as far as the landscape is concerned, because you talked about the San Francisco 49ers being a team that's going to be back on the rise after an injury-plagued season. In the NFC South, it kind of looks up in the air on that one, whether you think it's Tampa Bay, whether you think it's Atlanta, or whether you think Carolina may surprise with Bryce Young. And then you have the NFC North with Green Bay. How are they going to be affected with Micah Parsons, as far as playing like that, on the defense, provided he's healthy. Chicago Bears, new coach, new spirit, new atmosphere. We'll see if that see if that's the difference, and Caleb Williams can step up as a quarterback. And of course, the Detroit Lions, are they headed for a little bit of a crash after a really successful year last season? And of course, like we saw, some of the people chipping away at it as far as players and coaching staff moving on to other teams. And then we have the Philadelphia Eagles riding high off of their world championship and Super Bowl win. The Washington Commanders with Chase Daniels could be very much of a surprise as well. And then, of course, how about them Cowboys? How about that team themselves as far as letting go with their best defensive player, and we'll see what happens there. So, with all that said, my friend, how do you see the NFL NFC playoffs shaping out?
I think the San Francisco 49ers emerge victorious. Back in the day, making such a prediction when the Super Bowls at their home stadium would be heresy, but then we saw teams do it back to back at the earlier part of this decade. So I think the 49ers emerge just because their strength of schedule is easy. I think the West is winnable for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up with at or near home field advantage. And frankly, I like the way Brock Purdy's been playing. He got his contract. That whole controversy and buzz around that is gone. And I think Robert Saleh, run out of the Meadowlands as Jets head coach, gets back to his basics, what he's good at, being a defensive coordinator. And I think he helps the 49ers D this year. So that's my pick to come out. I would really love to say the Rams would be there too. Just too worried about Matthew Stafford and his injury. If they can keep him upright this year, that's another team I think can contend. And of course, the Eagles are going to be in it. But the statistical mind that I have at times, I know they've got to revert back to the mean at some point. So while I do see them as a playoff team, I do remember last year in January in the snow in Philly, they let the Rams back into that game and they were a fumble away from at least forcing it to overtime, if not winning it. So while the Eagles had an impressive stretch last year and playoff run, they were that close to losing, and the balls always bounce a little bit differently the year after you win a title.
So, with all that said and done, your NFC championship contender going on to the Super Bowl would be the San Francisco 49ers. Is that correct?
Correct. Put my money where my mouth is. Placed a legal bet in the state of Nevada. So I'm gonna stay
Or on your
consistent.
app these days?
Yeah, just not in the state I live in. But yeah, I get your point. There are plenty of other states I could do it in.
Please bet responsibly. And again, we're just giving you advice or tips as far as entertainment is concerned. But I agree with Chris. Right now, you'd have to say if San Francisco is healthy, they do have a very talented team. And I think that they might have what it takes because it's so hard to go back to back, as we've seen in recent years, what happened with Kansas City and whatnot. But Kansas City, seems to be the only team that really thrives off of getting to the Super Bowl on quite a frequency. And we'll talk about them probably here in a second. But I'm probably going to lean San Francisco or Philadelphia at this point in time, but we'll have to wait and see. Kyle says, I have Josh Allen. Oh, great question. All right, here we go. Kyle Siebert says, I have Josh Allen. Should I double flex Shakir and Coleman, or should I use Jacoby Myers or Ollie Gordon? You start two.
I'm not a huge fan of doubling up, but in this case, early in the season, and the fact that I'm not quite sure what to expect from Myers, I say go for it. I think Allen's going to have a huge year, and I think on Sunday Night Football, that's going to be a huge matchup. We know how the Bills handled the Ravens last year in the cold. I expect big things from the Bills offense this week and throughout the season.
I would agree with you on that. I'm a little concerned over Shakir, to be honest with you, because again, even though Josh Allen had an MVP season, it just seems like the guys at the skill positions have not been able to go ahead and translate into that kind of success. He seems to disperse evenly all the different passes around to all the different places where he needs to go, which is good in essence, but it doesn't give anyone else the real uplift in fantasy points outside of what we see with Josh. And he's always running as well. So that's a great thing if you have Josh Allen as MVP. He was my picked at in 3 leagues last year, which I won one of, and again came in third with yours as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, absolutely. I think that having Josh Allen is a good run, but yes, Shakir, Coleman. I would go ahead and say Jacoby Myers would be my pick as well. So yeah, excellent question, Kyle Sieber. Truly appreciate you going ahead and putting that out there. Again, if you have any questions for us, always feel free to go ahead and send it to us. No worries, Kyle. Always appreciate it. Thank you so much again for just watching. So in the AFC looking for some vengeance after getting defeated in the Super Bowl. We obviously have Kansas City retooling and seeing what's going to happen as far as their situation is concerned. So in the AFC, I see some pretty good teams over there on that side. Teams that have loaded up, teams that are looking for a run. Is this finally the year that Buffalo breaks through? Or does Baltimore, Kansas City, or Houston have something to say about that as well?
Yeah, I've been saying that for the last few years. Maybe it was wishful thinking, but again, I think the Bills have to be at least one of the teams to beat. The AFC East is completely weak. Don't believe Bill Simmons and his mass hole propagandists, and they say that Vrabel's going to turn this team around and Drake May's the second coming. Neither are true. It's a weak division. The Jets are, trying to come back from the doldrums again, and I think the Dolphins are a team declining, not on the rise. You look at the Central, I think that's a real tough division. You know, the Ravens have to be the front runners. One of these years, they're going to get to a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. I don't know if it'll be this year, but I think they'll be in the running. Everyone seems to want to write off the Bengals. They've loaded up on offense. They solved the Hendrickson contract dilemma, and everyone's talking about how they have no defense. This team last year would have made the playoffs had they not lost a couple horrible games at the beginning of the year, including to the lowly Patriots. So I think the Bengals are contenders, at least to be a wild card. And then the Steelers, yeah, everyone talks about Mike Tomlin. He's got a winning record every season. This could be the year he finally goes 8-9. I just don't think Aaron Rodgers is the answer, and they Mason Rudolph, yeah, he's played in a playoff game, but not the caliber of quarterback that's going to win in that division. And the Browns are just awful. I won't waste any more air on them. The South, look, I like what the Texans did last year, and we talked about how the Rams should have beaten the Eagles. The Texans were in that game against Kansas City in a divisional round, lost a receiver during the game. During the season, they lost more receivers, and that did not deter C.J. Stroud. I really like their defense. They're underrated. I think this could be one of my dark horse teams to maybe even make a run to the Super Bowl or at least deep in the playoffs. And then we go to the rest of the South. Jaguars, who knows if they'll ever get it together. Trevor Lawrence, really just paying him for mediocrity. The Titans and Colts bringing up the rear. One thing I'll say about the Titans is I'm curious to see how Cam Ward performs, a number one overall pick. There are a lot of high hopes for him out of there. Not that they're going to, do anything, but who knows? Maybe they play spoiler and beat a couple teams this year they shouldn't. And then again, we move out west, and the West is the best. You've got the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Chargers. All three were playoff teams, and your local team, the Las Vegas Raiders, who I don't think are going to be a pushover this year like they were in the Antonio Pierce days. Pete Carroll comes out of semi-retirement after 1 year. Tom Brady thinks he owns the whole team, even though he's a part owner. And, Brock Bowers finally has a quarterback to throw to him in Geno Smith coming over from Seattle. And, with Ashton Genty, highly touted rookie running back. Let's see if the Raiders can get that ground game running. Don't think they'll be a playoff team, but they're not going to be pushed around in the AFC West anymore. So I think those are your contenders and your pretenders.
There's a lot of rookie running backs and wide receivers, but mainly a lot of rookie running backs that are high up in the fantasy football drafts. We talked about that before, how that might be a little bit of a risk. I'll just say, as far as the quarterback is concerned, Cam Ward, he was in almost every draft I was, except for one, available in the last round of every draft. I picked him up as a third quarterback on a couple of those drafts. But the last one, of course, was the one that we did. He was picked up earlier. So some people are starting to show faith in the number one quarterback, and we'll have to wait and see. But your thoughts on this rookie crop? A lot of weight is being put on Ashton Genty to score big for fantasy football owners. Mario Hampton from the LA Chargers is also someone that a lot of people are taking a look at. It's now risen up those draft boards as well. So before we get to your predictions on the playoffs for the AFC and our overall Super Bowl pick, your thoughts on this rookie class and who might end up being Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I think it's going to come between Genty and Hampton just because they're in situations where they're the clear number one. They're going to be starting from day one. I was really surprised that Travion Henderson's now listed third on the depth chart with the Patriots. He had a great preseason, a lot of hype surrounding him. I'm sure he'll be the starter within a matter of weeks, but he'd really have to put up huge numbers in a short amount of time to win Rookie of the Year. But I know they're really excited about his explosiveness. I believe in Hampton. We picked him in our league last night, and with Najee Harris recovering from yet another one of those stupid firework injuries from the 4th of July, I think Jim Harbaugh is going to pound the ball with him. So I think those are your Rookie of the Year contenders if it was to be a running back.
I like Hampton. I like what I see out of Hampton, and I'm thinking that if with Genty, just maybe it's the Raiders' luck or what have you. I'm not with the fact that I've seen it up close and personal here in Las Vegas. Maybe I'll be proven wrong as far as Genty is concerned, but I like Hampton right now as my early favorite. But who knows? Cam Ward, who knows? Jackson Dart, maybe getting that opportunity because he was drafted by several teams sometimes before
Yeah.
Cam Ward, which actually blew me away. But
Those are just Giants fans, I'm guessing, because we got Cam Ward as a backup really late in one draft, and what the heck? Hold on to him. Maybe he amounts to something. If not, release him for the hot quarterback of the week. But Dart's going to sit
exactly.
for a while.
Yes, I think so. But as you and I know, the NFL always changes like that, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But before we get your thoughts on Coach of the Year and MVP for this year, I want to see how your AFC shakes out. So, if you are putting your prognosticator cap on, how do you see the AFC landscape and the playoffs shaping out?
I think it's another slugfest with a lot of the same familiar names as last year. One caveat, I do not think the Chiefs make it to the Super Bowl. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make it to the AFC Championship. Besides the Rasheed Rice suspension, this is just an offense I was not impressed with last year, and they've only gotten older. Have they really addressed their offensive line issues? I don't know. We'll see. The defense is always solid under Steve Spagnuolo, but that was not the vintage Kansas City Chiefs from the early years of the Mahomes run to the Super Bowl. So I think they flame out this year. I'm going to narrow it down to two. While I do think the Ravens will be in it, I think the Texans make a run this year, but ultimately they're thwarted by the Buffalo Bills in the frozen tundra of Orchard Park, New York. They played one last year in the stadium formerly known as Rich Stadium, that great frozen edifice up there, practically in Canada, before they move to their new digs next year. Shout out to my cousin who worked on that stadium the past few years. But yeah, I think this is the Bills' year. I think they finally put it together. The drop passes go away. The penalties like phantom kickers, Scott Norwood, you name it, wind gusts. I think that all goes to the side, and Josh Allen leads his team to the big dance in Santa Clara next February.
I agree with you. I think this is it's now or never for the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion, and I think that it is now. But let's go with a surprise that you might have. You said Houston may surprise. Baltimore, obviously, with their defense, always has a chance, and Lamar Jackson could step it up as well. Would be surprised. Cincinnati, you talked about as well with their high octane offense. Let's not forget about the Miami Dolphins. I think they're just going under the radar for now, and it all depends on Tua. If he takes another shot, that could be it. That could be all she wrote. I get that. I understand that. But outside of that, they do have a lot of skill right there. Their lines seem to be pretty steady. I'd say don't underestimate the Miami Dolphins making a run. I didn't say all the way, but I just said don't be surprised that they make a little noise this year.
Yeah, I just worry about Devon A. Chain, and then we'll see which Tyreek Hill shows up. I know last year he wasn't quite the fantasy player everyone thought he would be. I think he was drafted in the top 5 a lot of places. So we'll see if he bounces back this year. My surprise team, and I don't think they'll be a playoff team, but I think they'll outperform, and they won't be in the cellar like the Indianapolis Colts. Is those Tennessee Titans? I think sometimes you get these rookie quarterbacks. Now, not everyone's going to be Daniels and DC, but maybe Cam Ward after a few weeks puts it together, and the team puts a nice little run. And who knows? Maybe they have like a 7-10 season. Don't think they're contenders, but I definitely don't think they'll be in the running for the top pick in next year's NFL draft.
Once again, it is Chris Lardieri along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this thing. Truly appreciate you joining Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Again, isfantasyfootball@yahoo.com or Inside Sports FF on Twitter, and also gmail.com as well. If you want to go ahead and lay your questions out there, or just put it on the YouTube channel, we'll go ahead and try to address it as soon as possible for you. But before we head on out, before we get to your ultimate Super Bowl champions, I want to go ahead and ask you your thoughts on the MVP and Coach of the Year. We'll start with Coach of the Year first. Who do you think will be given that illustrious honor as far as Coach of the Year? Who do you think? It's usually given to a team that people don't see coming. Of course, with the surprise of the Detroit Lions, the rise so great to their talk. Obviously the Ben Johnson, the work he did with them. Where do you see the Coach of the Year ending up this time around?
Yeah, if you look at it, and if they do dominate like I predict, I think Kyle Shanahan will be in the running. But like you said, tends to go to one of these surprise teams that just really outperforms. And what the heck? Let's just say, how about? Geez, there's so many teams that are in it right now, but I'm trying to think of one that'll outperform. We'll go with D'Amico Ryans with the Texans. Maybe they have a really fantastic record this year and surprise a lot of people with how well they play.
I'll tell you what, look out for if they close the gap on the Chiefs. Look out for Harbaugh. I'll just say that. Look out for Harbaugh to see if he might surprise. Yeah. So if they get to 11 wins, could be something to talk about right there for you. But before we head on out and before we go ahead and do our Super Bowl predictions, MVP is concerned. MVP, it's hard to stay away from Josh Allen. Great year last year. Got married to Haley Steinfeld in the offseason. I don't know. Things are looking good, but are they looking too good for him to be an MVP twice in a row?
Yeah, I think that's tough. Had he not won last year, I think he would be my favorite. I'm just going to take a flyer because I thought this guy was in the running last year and had a valid case. And given my projection that I think they outperform and actually make the playoffs this year, I'm going to go with Joe Burrow. I think he puts up huge numbers and basically carries that team to a bunch of like 51-45 type wins and gets the Bengals into the playoffs and maybe does some damage there. But I think this is his year to win that trophy.
I actually was going to go with his teammate, Jamar Chase, who is the number one fantasy football option in most drafts. And I was actually going to lean towards if they get to 12 wins or 13 wins, I definitely think it's a possibility because it will be all based on their offense. And their defense, even if it's average, I think that's a big win for Cincinnati because if that's the case and they do win 13 games, that sets themselves up for some really good postseason honors, including the MVP. So, yeah, absolutely. We're both thinking Cincinnati, so it's a possibility there. So I like that. I like that indeed. Go ahead, my friend.
I was going to say, maybe I watched a little too much of the Netflix quarterback series, and I was even more impressed with Burrow.
We'll see if that's the case. But before we head on out, again, he mentioned that you didn't have in mind last week any underdogs for week 1 of the NFL. So I'm giving you a second chance. If you do have any thoughts on any underdogs for week 1, as we go out, we take a look at the underdog because we're out on the lawn looking over the landscape of the cul-de-sac there, the beautiful neighborhood at right there at your bevy. It's fall starting to creep in a little bit, still a little bit warm from the late August heat going over the Labor Day weekend. But you look out, You make sure the water and the bowl is okay for the dog because woof woof woof, it's time for the doghouse once again.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't last week, Gerald. The during that time, the Packers traded for Micah Parsons, and then he got hurt, and I'm sure the lines moved back and forth. So settled in. We're here recording this on a Wednesday evening. The season starts tomorrow night. The lines seem to have been a little more stable, and you know me, Gerald. I love my home dogs. I saw a few of them this week on the week one docket, and then I realized there is a home dog that is far away from home, and that will be one of my hometown teams here, the Los Angeles Chargers, traveling all the way down to Brazil. By the way, Gerald, there will not be a Friday night football game next year for whoever it is, YouTube or Peacock or whoever, because of some 1960s law that you can't go up against high school football starting the second week of September. And that's the way the schedule will fall next year. So the NFL got two freebies with Labor Day being early, but I digress. So enjoy your Friday night football, folks. But anyway, the Chargers play the Kansas City Chiefs. Everyone is so excited. Travis and Taylor got engaged. The Chiefs are going to bounce back. Mahomes will have plenty more of T-Mobile, State Farm, and God knows what else commercials to do. But I think this is going to be a classic Super Bowl loser hangover year for them. The Chargers always manage to seem to play the Chiefs tough. Jim Harbaugh has had months to game plan for this, and I think Justin Herbert finally exacts revenge. The Chargers are getting 3.5 points. I'm hoping you don't even need it, but you know I love that extra hook. And if Harrison Butker hits a field goal late and they beat the Chargers by 3, at least you've covered your wager. Go with the Chargers as my first doghouse pick of the 25 season.
All right. Well, there you go. I think that's a good way to say it right there. Woof, woof, woof. Always going to the doghouse as we do. Truly appreciate you doing so. But before we head on out, here it comes. Our predictions on the NFL season. And if that's the case, I would like to say, if that's the case, this can always be deleted, off the various channels, if that's the case, and we're way wrong. But for now, we'll keep it on the air. In doing so, your thoughts on a Super Bowl pick for you as far as the teams. I think you had San Francisco coming out of the NFC, and you had, what was it?
Buffalo.
Buffalo. Yes, Buffalo.
Yeah. So, yeah, my winning ticket that would pay out more would be the 49ers. So, being the anti-mush / jinx that I try to be, let's just go with the Buffalo Bills. Everyone wants them to win. I picked them to win a few years in a row now, and I think this is the year they finally do it. Given I've got both sides of that wager, I'd be happy either way. But for some reason, watching that AFC Championship and seeing Allen drive and the pass get dropped and just the air come out of that balloon, I really thought that got been completed. The Bills probably marched down the field to victory against an overrated Chiefs team, as we saw, but wasn't meant to be. Maybe things bounce right for them this year, and they finally get that elusive trophy after many years for the loyal fans in Buffalo.
Whew. I'm going to go a little bit in reverse. I do like the San Francisco-Buffalo matchup, but I'm going to say San Francisco is going to come back with the win on this one, simply because of the fact that I think they will have just enough to slow down Josh Allen, and I think CMC, if he stays healthy, then he's going to do some damage, which is really hard to stop because he's such a dynamic player. So we both have both teams. We have the same teams going to the Super Bowl, just different outcomes indeed. But we'll see. Although if we do get a Buffalo-San Francisco matchup, we'll definitely be seeing a lot of Haley Steinfeld in the Taylor Swift box right there. A lot of shots of her cheering on her dude. So yeah, definitely indeed. But I would not be surprised if Buffalo finally goes ahead and gets it done, because like I said, it's do or die in my opinion, because I'm not sure they will get to this level again in Buffalo, but we'll see, my friend. But Chris, any last thoughts, my friend, before we head on out?
Yeah, if you want a long shot pick, we mentioned this earlier, Taylor and Travis. how about Taylor to play the Super Bowl halftime show? Because if her man's not in it, she could still get her face on the screen in front of 130 plus million American TV viewers. So don't know if there are odds on that, but just throwing it out there. We'll see what happens.
Once again, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It is, of course, Gerald Glassford along with my good friend, Mr. Chris Lardieri. Truly cannot thank him enough for stopping by. And we'll be back next week to recap the fallout from week 1 for your fantasy football teams. Remember, don't panic after week 1. It's not time to hit the panic button yet. There are 17 games in total before the, or 16 weeks before the championship game. So don't hit the panic button just yet after week 1. So that's all I say. Yep, absolutely. But to Chris, my friend, it's always been great to have you on. Just cannot thank you enough for being part of what we do. Been doing this for years now, my friend. I took over for the great Charles Smith. So I'm truly appreciative of all the time that you go ahead and give to me. I know you're always a busy man, but cannot thank you enough for enduring another season of football with me, my friend.
It's not enduring. It's enduring the technology, but not this show or you.
Appreciate it, my friend, as always. Once again, it is Chris Lardieri from the various things that he does with Inside Sports and Inside Sports Fantasy Football, or check out his old episodes, which I was doing at the Domination Sports Nation. So him and Dom always made a great team, and hopefully that will happen once again. Maybe Dom will stop by on this show because he's so astute, like his dad, on the NFL. So looking forward to that. But yes, absolutely looking forward to a great season in the NFL with you, Chris, and a great season with everybody out there from all of us right here at Inside Sports Fantasy Football.